What's up, gang? Welcome back to the channel. My name's CJ. This is Out of Bounds, and in today's video, we're going to do what we've been doing for the last several videos, which is looking at some NBA single stat player props over on PrizePicks and the various sports betting websites. So if you don't have PrizePicks available where you live, or maybe you have sports betting available to you in your state, well, this video is going to provide you with a lot of good information on single stat player props such as points, assists, rebounds, and some three-point makes. So I try to give you about 8 picks per video, and yesterday's video did quite well. We had at least 6 hits, maybe more, depending on how you ended up going with Karis LeVert in his points or Anthony Edwards in his three-point makes, depending on which way you went there, over, under. You could have had up to 8 correct picks from yesterday's video. So let's try and repeat yesterday's success in today's video. Also, word to all of our patrons out there, anybody who signed up for Patreon, we had a very, very good night in terms of the spreadsheet that I put together, which is basically an extension of what I do in these videos. Last night's spreadsheet returned to glory. The previous night it was like 48% accurate. Last night it was 78% accurate, which is the highest I've ever seen it. So we had a fantastic night, a lot of winning lineups put together based off of that single stat spreadsheet. So we're going to look to continue the success today. Let's get into some of the news real quick. We've got Dario Saric for the Phoenix Suns. He's dealing with an ankle injury. It looks like he's expected to come back tonight. Colin Sexton, who's been dealing with a concussion, he has made it through the Cavs shoot-around. So there's a positive step, I guess, in the right direction for Colin Sexton returning for the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight. It looks like the Hawks Bogdan Bogdanovic, dealing with that hamstring injury, is questionable for Friday, so we may not have Bogdanovic in the lineup. Kyrie Irving, who is dealing with a groin injury, is set to return Friday for the Nets against the Trail Blazers. And another big piece of Nets news here, Kevin Durant, injury management has been ruled out for the Nets Friday night in a back-to-back, so Kyrie enters the lineup. Kevin Durant tags out and will be out of the lineup for the Nets tonight. It looks like Nikola Vucevic is dealing with an adductor injury. He is probable, though, for the Chicago Bulls on Friday. Clint Capella, dealing with a heel injury, is questionable for the Hawks against the 76ers. Looks like Kemba Walker will continue to miss time for the Boston Celtics. He's got an oblique injury and will not play tonight. Otherwise, Jay Crowder, Phoenix Suns forward, is dealing with an ankle injury. He's questionable for Friday. Looks like Isaiah Hartenstein is dealing with a concussion. He's still out for the Cleveland Cavaliers on Friday. Giannis Antetokounmpo went down with an ankle injury last night. Big one there. Same thing with Malcolm Brogdon. He went out with a hamstring injury. Big one for Indiana, who continues to deal with major injuries to their key players. Utah's Royce O'Neal dealing with a wrist injury. He's questionable for Friday. Mike Conley, hamstring, is out on Friday. So probably a boost to some of the other guys like Joe Ingles. Maybe Gobert, maybe Jordan Clarkson off the bench gets a bump up. Let's see if there's anything else that stands out for Friday. It doesn't really look like it. We'll wrap the news up right there. If you're in the Discord community, I've got a news channel that pumps in all the latest NBA news. So I'll leave a link down in the description below for both the Discord, which is completely free to join, and the Patreon link. So if you want to join the Patreon, it helps support me as a creator, allows me to keep making these videos for you guys, and I give back by putting together some good spreadsheets, and I've got a private set of channels for every sport that PrizePicks offers, where we could go and chat there and land on some good picks. So tomorrow starts a new month. If you're interested in joining, I would wait until tomorrow, because the way Patreon is set up, if you join late, unfortunately it charges you at the time that you join, and it automatically charges you again on the first of every month. So something to keep in mind. But anyways, enough of all that stuff. Let's go ahead and start getting into some of these props. That's what you're here for. That's what I'm here for. So the first one I want to talk about is going to be Marcus Smart, point guard for the Boston Celtics. We're looking at his points prop today against the San Antonio Spurs. This game tips off at 7:40 p.m. Marcus Smart's at 14.5 points. Of course, we've already mentioned Kemba Walker will miss his third game for Boston, but I'm looking to take the under on Marcus Smart. Before we do that, let's look at the game totals. 221.5 implied points here. We got Boston as a 4.5 point favorite at home. So pretty good totals, and the spread is also a green light go for me, meaning that this game shouldn't blow out, shouldn't be one of those games that turns into a complete runaway. So we've got Number Fire pulled up, completely free website for you guys to go out there and use. They've got very good projections in terms of like fantasy points if you play on PrizePicks, or if you're just looking for some single stat projections, they have those too. And that's what we're looking at today. So we got Marcus Smart at 12.7 expected points. Now that's quite a bit under 14.5 points, which is a good step in the right direction if we're looking to take the under on Marcus Smart and these 14.5 points. So with that in mind, we will move over to NBA.com. Let's type in Marcus Smart's name. I control click, or if you're on a Mac, command click on his name, because that opens up a new tab for us, makes things a little easier, and up pops his player card. Now you can see for the season, he is averaging 13.6 points per game, which again is another good sign because that's below 14.5 points. Now without Kemba Walker in the lineup, we can expect a little bit of a bump probably for Smart, Tatum, Brown, all of those big names for the Boston Celtics. So we got to look at his last 5 games here. And I think I'll do something else in just a moment after we look at these last 5. So over the course of his last 5 games, in which he's appeared in 4 of them, he's playing a little over 33 minutes per game, and he's averaging 15.3 points per game during that time span. So that is more than 14.5, which raises a bit of a red flag here. It's a little concerning. But let's look at the last 2 games, because Kemba Walker has been out for those last 2 games. Tonight will mark his 3rd game in a row that he's been out for the Celtics. So let's see how he's done in the last 2. Now, Marcus Smart was suspended for 1 of those games, so he's only appeared in just 1 out of the last 2 games. And in that game, he put up 14 points, so that would put him under 14.5. No, it's not a real big sample size, but it is something to kind of keep in mind, that the under is still maybe a reasonable way to go here on Marcus Smart in these 14.5 actual points. So with that in mind, we're heading over to RotoWire, which is a good site to look at the different player props and get an idea of how the action is looking on 4 of the biggest sports books that are out there. So we're going to do just that. DraftKings does not have a points prop up for Marcus Smart, but the 3 other sites do, and they all got him at 14.5 points. So starting with FanDuel, they've got him as a minus 116 to go under. BetMGM minus 128 to go under. And finally, PointsBet has him as a minus 125 to go under 14.5 points. So based on his season averages, based on his 5-game averages, or 3-game averages, I should say, and then looking at the way that the Vegas lines are looking, I think that under on Marcus Smart is still probably a pretty good way to go here. So I'm going to stick with it. I don't feel super strong about it, but if I had to make a decision, it would probably be on the under for Marcus Smart tonight. All right, so with Marcus Smart out of the way, let's move on to the next player I want to talk about, which is Joe Ingles. And we've got Joe Ingles at 14.5 points on PrizePicks today. And I'm looking to take the over on Joe Ingles against this Phoenix Suns team. This game tips off at 10:10 p.m. So let's rinse and repeat here, and we'll take a look at Joe Ingles and his point projection right after we look at the game totals and the spread for this one. So let's move on over here and find this game. We got Utah visiting Phoenix. The game has an implied total of 219.5 points, with Phoenix as a 5-point home favorite. So game looks to have pretty decent totals, not super high, but pretty healthy. And then the blowout risk is little to none here. It looks like this game will stay close and competitive, despite some of the injuries that Utah is dealing with Donovan Mitchell being out, Mike Conley being out, and so on. So Joe Ingles, 14.5 points. Let's go ahead and take a look at his prop here and see where they project him today. They've got him at 15 points, does Number Fire. So if we're looking to take the over, well, this is why, because our first bit of research here indicates that 15 points could be in Joe Ingles' future tonight. So we're going to type his name into NBA.com. And you got to spell it right. That is a big part of finding what you're looking for. And then for the season, you could see that he is at 12.2 points per game. But as I mentioned, there are some pretty impactful injuries here. So let's look at his last few games, and that'll help paint a better picture of how Joe Ingles has been scoring the basketball without some of those big names in the lineup. So we'll click run it, and we'll get a report back here. Now, he's played in all 5 of those games, getting over 31 minutes per game. Now, in that time span, 13.6 points per game. So that puts him a little bit under this 14.5. So that can kind of go either way. When it's usually like 1 point or less, you could see this going, over or under, really. I mean, it's almost at a coin flip. So it's a little red flag, not too concerning. Not going to push me off of going over on Joe Ingles here. All right, so let's head back over to RotoWire. We'll type in Mr. Ingles' name. And Joe Ingles at 14.5 points across the board here. Yes, he is. So at DraftKings, they got him at a minus 121 to go over. So that is a good start. Now, this one is a little bit of a knock against going over on Joe Ingles. The reason why is because they're betting the under over on FanDuel Sportsbook. They got him at minus 112 to go under 14.5 points. Same thing here at BetMGM. They got him at a minus 118 to go under 14.5 points. And then finally, PointsBet. They've kind of got a tie, I guess you could call it. Minus 115 for the under, minus 115 for the over. So it's not looking super crystal clear here. This one I would probably feel less confident in going over Joe Ingles in these 14.5 points than I did for the first guy we talked about, Marcus Smart. So yeah, but with all things considered, the game totals being what they are, the game's looking to stay pretty close and competitive. I think that I would probably lean toward the under. I don't feel super good about it, though. I mean, this is going to be one of those ones like yesterday with Karis LeVert where you're kind of in a tough spot. Now, pay attention to the projections throughout the day. Pay attention to the Vegas lines because these things do change throughout the day. So there may be a better idea of which way to go as bets continue to roll in on all the sports books. So there you have it. Next guy I want to talk about is Jarrett Allen, the big man for the Cleveland Cavaliers. They got him all the way up at 16.5 points today, and man, that just seems high for Jarrett Allen, who is someone who's not typically a scorer. Now, I get it. They're going against the Washington Wizards. This game tips off at 7:40 p.m. Typically, when you play against the Wizards, everybody kind of gets a bump up for points and assists and rebounds and even three-point makes, but Jarrett Allen at 16.5 points, yikes. I think that's too high. Let's go take a look at the game total real quick and the spread. So we'll move things back here. All right, so this one's got a 228.5 point implied total with Cleveland as 6.5 point underdogs at home. So Cleveland is expected to get whooped in this game. The game totals are pretty high, though, but I don't know that they're high enough, and I don't know that Jarrett Allen's role on this team is good enough for him to go over 16.5 points. That's indicating that he's going to score 17 or more, which I don't know how many times he's really done that this season. All right, but knowing what we know now, we can type in Jarrett Allen's name, and you can see that his projection today is at 15.1 points, which is quite a bit lower than 16.5. 1.4 whole points under the projection over on PrizePicks and all the various sports betting sites. So with that in mind, let's move over here to NBA.com and see how Jarrett Allen's been scoring both for the season and in his last 5 games. All right, so for the season, he's putting up 13.3 points per game. Pretty good number, actually, a little bit better than I was expecting. I was maybe having him closer, expecting him to be around 11, 12 points, but 13.5, pretty respectable number. Let's see if that number goes up or down, though, when we compare the season averages versus his last 5 games. So we will do just that. Click run it. All right, so over his last 5 games, his scoring average actually is up. It's at 16.4 points, but that is still under 16.5. So you think about 16 points, 17 points on a scale, on a spectrum. More often than not in his last 5 games, he has been closer to 16 than 17. So I'm still feeling pretty good about taking the under here on Jarrett Allen. I don't see anything that's like making me want to flip-flop or fade. In other words, don't choose this pick at all. So I'm still sticking with it. The under on Jarrett Allen still looking A-okay to me. So let's type in his name on RotoWire. Let's look at the sports books and see what's happening there. Now, DraftKings does not have a point prop up for him, but 3 of the other sites do, and all 3 of them tend to agree with what I was saying earlier, meaning that Jarrett Allen should go under the 16.5 points. So FanDuel, minus 120 on the under, BetMGM, minus 125 on the under, and finally PointsBet, minus 120 on the under. So all 3 sites agree, which is a good sign. So we've got season averages that are below 16.5 points. We've got 5-game averages that are below 16.5 points. We've got a point projection that's below 16.5 points, according to Number Fire. And we got 3 out of the 4 sports books. All 3 agree that under 16.5 points is a good look here for Jarrett Allen. So out of the 3 point props, I'm feeling probably the strongest or the best about this one. So I'm going to stick with it. Jarrett Allen under 16.5 points in this matchup. Feeling good about it. All right, so with that one out of the way, we get to move on to assists. Now, I only have 1 assist prop for you today. That's why I went over 3 point props for you. And the 1 assist prop that caught my eye was Tyrese Halliburton. And Halliburton is at 7.5 assists. They're taking on the Los Angeles Lakers today at 10:40 p.m. So this is a super late start, at least for me over here on the East Coast down in Florida. But at 7.5 assists, I think I'm looking to take the under on Halliburton. So let's move back to Number Fire. We'll take a look at the game totals and the spread real quick. Move it all the way down to the end. I think this is the last game of the night. So we've got 222 implied points here with an 8.5 point favorite for the Los Angeles Lakers, the home team. So it looks like it could blow out. I would have to put this one in an orange, probably even red category in terms of blowout risk or blowout potential. This one is one that you're going to want to be careful on. Now, this is the reason why I like the under on Tyrese Halliburton and these assists even more, because it looks like it could be a blowout. So let's type his name in here. Now, I've got him at 7 assists projection for tonight, which would put him under. That's where we need him to be, 7 dimes or less, and we take the under. We're going to make some cash. So with that in mind, let's move things over to NBA.com. I will type in Tyrese, and there's Tyrese Maxey and Tyrese Halliburton. There's only 2 Tyreses in the league right now. All right, for the season, you can see that his assists per game are at 5.3, which is quite a bit lower than 7.5. But of course, no De'Aaron Fox for the Sacramento Kings. He continues to be out. So we got to look at his more recent games and get a better feel for how he's been distributing the basketball nightly. So run that report here. Now, he's appeared in all 5 of the last 5 games, almost 32 minutes per game. And we slide on over to his assist number. He is at 8.2 assists. So yes, that is slightly over 7.5. It's closer to 8 than it is 9, though, which means that, yeah, this is a little bit of a knock against going under on Tyrese Halliburton, these 7.5 assists, but it's not enough to really make me too scared where I'm like going to completely fade this pick whatsoever. So knowing what we know now, we're going to click this assist bar down at the bottom of RotoWire. You can't see it, but trust me, it is there. And we type in his name. And you can see that across the 4 sports books that we have access to here, he is at 7.5 on all of them. And the first one, DraftKings, has him as a slight favorite to go under, minus 114. Now the next one, same situation, minus 114 to go under on FanDuel. BetMGM, a big position here, minus 133. So that's got to make you feel a little bit more confident and good about this pick. And last but not least, PointsBet. They got him at minus 130. So again, a stronger position on both BetMGM and PointsBet on the under 7.5 assists for Tyrese Halliburton versus FanDuel and DraftKings. But again, all 4 sites agree that this should be a position where we can take the under on Tyrese Halliburton and feel confident, comfortable doing so. So I'm sticking with it. Tyrese Halliburton under 7.5 assists. All right, so that was the only assist prop I have for you today, but I do have 2 rebound props and 2 3-point props. So we're halfway through today's pick list. So let's talk rebounds next. I've got Ja Morant at 4.5 rebounds going under against my Orlando Magic tonight. Game tips off at 8:10 p.m. We know Orlando has not been very good, but Ja Morant, I don't know, man. 4.5 rebounds. Yeah, he's probably been rebounding the ball a bit better than he has in some of the games in the past. But, you know, I'm just not feeling it. I don't think he gets there. Let's see what's happening here, though. So we got 224.5 implied points on the board. And Memphis, a 12.5 point home favorite here. So, yeah, this one's a red, meaning that, you know, I don't want to take too many overs in this game or any overs at all because this is a blowout. I mean, this is blowout written all over it. Can Orlando come out and compete and maybe defy Vegas? Yeah, maybe. But, you know, it could also, snow and hell, I guess, too, right? I don't know. Anyway, there's no chance that Orlando sticks around this game. Memphis just a much better team. Anyway, I like Ja Morant in the under here based on what I'm seeing. If this game does blow out, then he probably won't be in there in the fourth quarter. Let's just be real. So let's take a look here. We got to sort this here by rebounds. Go back down here, find Ja Morant. What happened to him? I lost him. I lost the little guy. There we go. 3.7 rebounds is his expected rebound projection today, according to NumberFire. So 3.7 is quite a bit lower than 4.5. Even if we round this up to 4 rebounds, if we're taking the under on 4.5 and he gets 4 rebounds, well, then we're going to make money. And that's what we want to do. We want to make more money. So let's type in Ja Morant's name here to NBA.com. We will open up his player card, get an idea of how good, how bad he's been rebounding the ball for the season. And for the season, you can see that he is just a shade under 4 rebounds per game, which is a great sign for us because we want to take the under on Ja Morant today. So let's look at his last 5 games and run that little report and see if that 3.9 goes up or down. Well, things are looking up here for Ja Morant. 5.6 rebounds per game over his last 5 games. His scoring numbers are also up 24 points, so that's something to keep in mind as well. But I'm not completely fading it here, and the reason is because of the blowout. Point blank period. I mean, if this game does blow out, we won't see Ja in the fourth for little or any minutes whatsoever. So let's click the rebound button. Let's look at his prop over on the various sports books today. DraftKings doesn't have one up for him, but the other 3 sites do, and they all have him at 4.5. And I'm seeing some strong action, some strong juice on the under for Ja Morant. Starting with FanDuel, minus 122 on the under. Great sign. Even better sign, though, BetMGM, minus 139. And you gotta love this last one here, minus 150 on PointsBet. That is a huge, huge, huge under. So I'm sticking with it. Ja Morant for under 4.5 rebounds. I'm going to just predict he probably gets like 4 boards. That just seems right. Like it's going to be close, but he's going to end up hitting 4 boards and staying under. So I'm sticking with it. Let's rock with that. Now, very rare here that I talk another point guard and a rebound prop, but we're going to do it. Chris Paul at 4.5 rebounds. I'm liking him to go over 4.5 rebounds against the Utah Jazz tonight. So that one had a little bit of a higher total. If you remember, the spread was a lot closer than the last game we talked about. So yeah, I think this is a good opportunity here for us to possibly target an over in this game situation. So let's head back here to NumberFire. We'll type in Chris Paul's name. And you can see that his projection is just a shade, a smidge over 4.5 rebounds, meaning that between 4 and 5 boards, he should be closer to 5 rebounds tonight. So let's hope that things break our way. So let's move over to NBA.com and see how CP3 has been rebounding for the season. And then, of course, we'll move things down to his last 5 games and see if that 4.6 rebound number goes up or down. So 4.6 rebounds for the season. That does put him slightly over 4.5, meaning more often than not, he leans toward 5 boards than he does 4 boards. Now let's see if that changes in any way. It actually does not. One of the rare instances where his season averages and his 5-game averages actually are exactly the same. So he's still consistent at 4.6 rebounds per game. So yeah, that's a slight little bump, I guess you could say, toward the 5 rebound number, which is where we need him to be if we're looking to take the over. So hopefully Chris Paul pulls down 5 rebounds tonight. Let's look at how the juice, the action is coming in on the various sports books. Now, all 4 of these sports books have him at 4.5 rebounds. Starting with DraftKings, minus 127 for the over. FanDuel's got him at minus 124 for the over. BetMGM, they've got him at minus 133, the best odds out of any of the 4 books. And finally, PointsBet has him at minus 130. So all 4 are looking pretty good to me. I don't really see any reason, a big knock or anything against Chris Paul and why we shouldn't take the over here. So I'm going to ride with it. I'm sticking with my guns. Chris Paul over 4.5 boards. All right. that brings us to our last two props of today's video, and both of these props happen to be 3-point props. The first one we're going to talk about is Kyle Kuzma, the Los Angeles Lakers forward. Of course, we know Anthony Davis has made his return back to the Lakers roster, so maybe that's a little bit of a knock against Kyle Kuzma and his usage and the amount of shots and everything, because at one point, Kyle Kuzma was just out of his mind. They gave him like the ultimate green light, the free pass to just jack up three balls. I think his role has probably changed a little bit and diminished since Anthony Davis has made his return. But let's look at it. So 2.5 3-point props. They're taking on the Sacramento Kings tonight. We've already talked about the game totals and the spread in this one. We're going to go to NBA.com and type in Kyle Kuzma's name. Let's open that up and go to his stats. This is how you get to his 3-point makes. Kind of the same way you do for all the other guys in their different props. So you can see for the season, he's attempting 5.7 3-pointers per game. Now on those 5.7 attempts, he is making 2 3-pointers per game, which is less than 2.5. So that's where we need him to be, 2 3-point makes or less. So let's change this from his season average and go to his last 5 and see if that number goes up or goes down. So his attempts are actually down at 5, but his makes are actually slightly up at 2.2, but that is still under 2.5, and that leads me to believe that he should be leaning closer to 2 3-point makes tonight than 3. So I'm sticking with it based on the averages that I'm seeing here. But last and certainly not least, we're going to check out Kyle Kuzma over on RotoWire. So let's type in Kuzma's name. And you can see that across all 4 sports books, he is at 2.5 3-point makes. So consistency is key here. Also, some consistency is minus 139 to go under on DraftKings, minus 132 to go under on FanDuel, minus 143 to go under on BetMGM. And last but not least, guys, PointsBet, massive minus 150. Yes, I'm taking it. I'm taking it all day and all night. Kyle Kuzma under 2.5 3-point makes is looking very juicy. Very, very good. All right, so the last one. Kevin Love. Kevin Love at 2.5 3-point makes. They're taking on the Washington Wizards. This game tips off 7:40 p.m. I've got Kyle. Not Kyle. It's Kevin Love. Okay, Kevin Love. Kevin Love going under 2.5 3-point makes. So let's do what we just did for Kyle Kuzma and look at Kevin Love. Got it right that time. You ain't going to keep fooling me, Kevin Love. All right, so we're going to dig into his stats tab. We're going to move on down to traditional splits. And before we look at his 5-game 3-point make average, we're going to look at the season averages. Now, 6.3 attempts per game. On those 6.3 attempts, he is making just 2 3-point makes per game for the season. Now, he's only played in 19 games, so not a very big sample size, but we're going to take that 19 games and narrow it down to just his last 5 games and see how those numbers change. And they have gone up a little bit. His attempts are on the rise at 6.8 attempts, and his makes are on the rise at 2.2, but that 2.2 figure is still under 2.5, which means he is leaning more toward 2 3-point makes per game in his last 5 games than he is 3, which is a good sign for us because we are looking to target the under here. So loving it still for Kevin Love and the under. So we type in his name to RotoWire. Now, only 2 out of the 3 available sports books have a 3-point prop up for Kevin Love. DraftKings does not. BetMGM does not. But the 2 that do, whoo-wee, man, my eyes are getting big. So FanDuel got him at 2.5, and he's a minus 156 to go under on that one. And PointsBet, they've got him at 2.5 as well, a minus 160 to go under 2.5 3-point makes there. I am not seeing anything based on my little research here that is leading me to believe that I should flip-flop or fade this Kevin Love under 2.5 3-point makes. So I'm sticking with it, and I am locking both Kevin Love and Kyle Kuzma in to go under their 3-point props tonight. But you guys tell me down in the comment section below which prop is standing out to you. Which one that I mentioned in today's video are you liking? Maybe there's one that you're hating or you're fading. Drop a comment below. It might help someone out, including myself. Appreciate all the feedback, guys. Let's run those likes up. I'll leave it down in the comments section below, but I'm thinking we can go for over 40 today because you guys crushed that 39.5 yesterday. Anyway, this is CJ for Out of Bounds. Thank you for tuning in. Good luck tonight. And until the next one, guys, peace out.